Good morning, Adelaide. My name is Con and I am the Conversationalist. And as always, on this freezing cold morning here in Adelaide, I have my latte. On this morning's episode, we're going international all the way over to New Zealand with my good buddy, Nick Hoyle. Now, Nick has an extensive, successful business background, having built his first $1 million plus business before he was 30. His businesses have included a retail operation in the wheel and tyre industry, large-scale event promotion, now a video production agency, and Nick also provides business mentoring. Nick is a great networker and created a huge resource for New Zealand businesses on Facebook with a group that has over 7,000 businesses interacting with each month. Nick also currently hosts his own podcast called Real Talk with Nick Hoyle, where he regularly interviews business leaders and experts on various fields to discuss the changing business climate. And having been through some massive highs and lows, Nick's message is pretty simple. Your mindset determines your success. Get that right, and the rest will follow. Good morning, or good afternoon, probably in your case, Nick.
Hey, Con, mate. Yeah, we've just ticked over midday and the sun is out. It's probably a balmy sort of, I'm going to go 16 degrees here today. So it's not bad, actually. Maybe mate, 17 even. It's not bad.
Mate, I at 5:30 this morning when I dragged my large frame to the gym, I had ice on my window for the first time. So it's a pretty brisk morning here in Adelaide. Mate, thanks for coming on the program. Really appreciate it. I know you're some of the amazing work that you've done and you offering your valuable time. Mate, let's go back a little bit. You and I met over 10 years ago at a personal development event, and we were both dealing with some stuff. But the biggest transformation I saw in you and your, not only your personal growth, but your business growth was after Kerwin Ray's Nissi event. Mate, can you take me through that?
Yeah, certainly. And that's right. We did go back a while, and I'd always known, that I've been attending. I was involved in network marketing in my 20s, and every month there was a seminar or a training thing, and I kind of got into that rhythm early in my business career of going to those types of things. And I started traveling out to Australia in like 2008 because they were having some really big names. Donald Trump, before he was Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's probably a taboo word now.
Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki, some of these big, Richard Branson. I actually saw Richard Branson speak in Adelaide.
Wow.
Yeah, so and I was fortunate enough to meet him a few years later at another event that I attended. And so we got connected at one of these things, but I was traveling out every year for probably the better part of 10 years to attend these events because they just don't happen here. And I was really aware that, the good mindset stuff going in was going to result in good actions, which is going to result in success and the things that I wanted in my life. But you're right, nail it and scale it was a big one. And, I was growing my business at that time, but I was very much in a space of sort of madly in a rush, always trying to get things done, always hustling onto the next thing, and really it was a lesson in presence for me. And Kerwin's event was a real growth time where we really we sort of, I think I'd built the house without a decent foundation with that business, and from the event I really sort of started to put some of that foundation stuff in place, and we really got a bit of traction with the business. And then, yeah, like I say, we went up over the $1 million mark, and that was a pretty cool thing to have, in my late 20s, early 30s type thing. So I'm a big advocate for personal development. I'm a big advocate for the things that we allow to influence us in our lives, being really conscious about what goes in is going to result in what comes out. So if you're sitting there watching, fucking Neighbours or that kind of garbage every night, Love Island or whatever. I honestly, mate, I haven't watched the TV and news in over 20 years. I don't have a Netflix account. You know, in the entire lockdown, I didn't watch a single show of Netflix. You know, um, I follow people like Tom Bilyeu, Robert Kiyosaki, you know, Tony Robbins, guys like that. And if you look on my that, and I'm big into CrossFit, so I follow a few of those guys. But if you look at my YouTube history, that's the stuff that I watch. Gary Vee. So that's where I get my influence from. And I really would implore anyone who's listening to really consider who is influencing you, because that's the things that's going to influence your output. And if you've got good input all the time, your actions and the way you manage your life goes towards more success. And success is just really a matter of how I believe is us benchmarking ourselves against ourselves. And, you know, from that event, you know, I did excelled my growth very much so. And I did get to a point where I would say that I'd outgrown the vehicle that I was in terms of my business. And the unfortunate thing is that I didn't have the skill set or the resources to move out of that business in a glorious manner, a successful manner. And unfortunately, after 10 years, 4 months and a handful of days, we ended up putting the business into liquidation because I was, you know, I was conscious enough to realize that I've been busting my ass for a long time with no financial return. And my employees were getting paid, the landlord was getting paid, the government was getting paid, the suppliers were getting paid, albeit a little bit late. And I was carrying all the stress and living on credit cards. And it was just, you know, really, it was a really tough time and a really massive period of growth for me. But now looking back 2 years later, and now we're in this, like I said to you in the green room before, this crazy time. I'm so thankful that I can sit back and see what's happening, knowing that I've been through what a lot of people are going through. And that's why I put so much energy into steering and guiding a community over the last, particularly over the last 60 days. I've just been almost full time working just to help the community out, the people that are in business that are struggling. And you can't help everyone, mate. No. It is great to be able to do something to help people that actually want to, you know, get off their ass and take some action. So it's exciting.
Mate, and thanks for sharing. I mean, you know, many of us have been through a tough time, you know, whether it's having to liquidate a business or the like. And I can certainly relate to that, you know, in my history. And whilst it's very, very unpleasant, it does teach you some really, really important lessons. And, you know, for those that are watching now that unfortunately have been forced into that situation because of what's going on with COVID-19, the strong message from me, and I'm sure Nick would echo the sentiment that it's not the end. It really is. It echoes a new beginning. It gives you the opportunity for a new beginning.
Yeah, absolutely, Con. And, you know, it might seem like a pretty dark day. And I know for me, I fucking cried my eyes out the day I shut the door of that workshop, you know. And even now that brings up, you know, an emotion for me, because I put 10 years of my life into that thing. And I lost relationships, friendships, because people just, in that, you know, put finances before relationships, which is, it's sad, but it happens.
Yeah.
And I'm still now, you know, there's, you know, personal guarantees, and I'm still, you know, working through, you know, the debts that I owe, and, you know, I'm making good on that over time. And, but I tell you, it was a case of, I was working with the Tony Robbins coach at the time, and it was a case of, and then what? 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 And then when you really start asking yourself, okay, so my business shuts, and then what? Well, then I've got to pay all those people back. Well, and then what? And then I can't afford to, you know, keep my house. And then what? And, you know, when you really start to break it all down, it's like, you know what? I woke up and I was living with family. Fortunately, I wasn't sleeping on the couch, but I woke up and there was toast in the toast the next morning, and there were people there for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, mate, I hear you.
And then what? And frick, man, it was just a matter of getting over the burnout, giving myself a little bit of time. Burnout's very, very real. It took, you know, I'm a high energy guy, but it took 10 years and 4 months and change for me to actually burn out, genuinely burn out. And it took me probably, I'm going to say, the better part of 6-8 months before I could really function again at a, and not even at a high level, just at a level where I was, able to.
Level.
Yeah. So, but I think the message is, look, for anyone that is facing that right now, and it's a shit time, and I'm sure it's very similar in Australia to what's happened here, but unfortunately, people have made decisions for us that we have no control over, and unfortunately, that has flushed a lot of businesses out, and that's freaking sad. But it will get better. You've just got to feel that ride and go with it.
Mate, absolutely. Nick, I just, before we get on to the community side of things, which I'm really quite fascinated about, not only for our viewers, but asking for a friend. Hello.
Love it. Yeah,
mate. Let's get back to mindset just for a moment, and it's such a powerful message. It doesn't matter what you listen to, what you read. Mindset. Now, you talked about television before, and I just want to tell you about a little episode of mine recently, which really hammered it home to me. I reckon we were probably 3 weeks into the pandemic, and I had literally refused to watch news reports, anything on social media that was related to COVID. And I saw a massive opportunity for me in what I do, and certainly which instigated this program that I'm doing now. And my partner came over one night and we were just watching television, and she flicked the news on. And I've got to tell you, within 15 minutes of watching a news broadcast, I felt my energy plummet, and emotionally I could just feel this depression, this gloom just overcoming me. And I actually said to her, so I can't watch this anymore. And we turned it off.
Yeah.
And I just want to, you spoke about that before, and we are what we put in our minds and what we listen to and what we read. And you're absolutely right about that. So on mindset, what changes did you have to make in terms of your mindset, or indeed any beliefs, pre-existing beliefs that you recognized were holding you back to be able to overcome them and move forward?
Yes, look, awesome question, and totally relate to you around the news thing there. It's that's how they want you to feel. The people that are running the media companies, they're associated with government. They donate. There's a whole bunch of stuff. They got their hand out. So you're absolutely right. Getting that influence, and it's freaking hard now with social media because it pops up in your newsfeed whether you like it or not. And the Prime Minister's on there doing live feeds every day talking about the pandemic, and it is hard. And it is really, you did right. You've got to sort of draw a line in the sand and say, I've had enough of this, and just don't drink the hater at, as they say. So there's two things that really spring to mind that I want to talk to about mindset. So the mindset that I'd used to build that business to $1.3 million in revenue, and full-time employees, and it got me to where it got me to. There was some things that got me there because it drove me. I'm very motivated. But there were some things that were blind spots, that beliefs that I had around, it was hard to find staff. You had to supervise and manage them all the time. If I wasn't there, shit didn't happen. And these are all really common self-employed beliefs. And the core underlying was a thing around trusting people to do the right thing. And I think a lot of business owners really, really struggle with this. And the reason being, you're taught to not trust when you're a kid. From day one, people are out to get you. And fuck that, there is that element to business and society and life. So I totally get it. Unfortunately for me and the business, I had amplified that, and I literally couldn't rest because I was always thinking about, fuck, has so-and-so called this guy back? Or, have we got that deal? I've got to make sure. And So while it worked, it served me on a good level because I managed to drive the business to that level. It also meant that we couldn't drive the business any further. The second thing that I really struggled with at that time was just my core understanding about relationships and how things like strategic partnerships worked, because I didn't really have that trust of other businesses or other people. So I couldn't see, through the mindset that I had, I couldn't see how I would scale the business any further. And ultimately, we're at a crossroads where we needed to do that, and I just couldn't see it. And unfortunately, like I say, the next 3 years were just a constant battle. And again, it was a mindset thing. But the second point about the mindset, the second thing that pops to mind is around the shift that I've had now, post 18 months to nearly 2 years post that experience, and all of the stuff that's happened in the last 3 or 4 months with the pandemic and all of this, is just seeing it for the opportunity. And I put it on my Instagram stories the day that it happened. I said, is anybody else as excited as me about what's going on in the world right now? Does anyone realize how much of a shift in wealth is happening right now, and how much of an opportunity there is for people who can recognize and see it for what it is? Because I recognize, Con, that there was a ultimate opportunity to get people's attention by sharing quality information, because there's so much shit out there, right? So I thought, shit, I've got this community of business owners, and we'll talk to that in a second. But I'm thought, man, if I can serve them by giving them information on how to survive, thrive, and get through this situation, right? What I'm going to create is such a huge following, because I've given so much value that I haven't figured out the monetization strategy for that, because I'm not at that point yet. But I recognize that in my mindset, I've seen here is the opportunity to serve someone. And as we all know, when you give and you give good to the universe, it comes back. So that was just two massive parts of my mindset of, if I was still carrying the same mindset I had as my business kind of, went, and I'd managed to make it the next 2 years, which I probably could have done with the energy that I bring and all the rest of it. This would have fucked me anyway.
Yeah, I get that.
But this time, and this is the third recession I've sort of lived through, and I just straight away, I just saw rose gardens everywhere, man. Like this is it. This is the opportunity to go. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, mate.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. And I know that the viewers will definitely be able to relate to that. It's they're just such strong, powerful messages. Mate, let's get on to community. Now, what inspired you, or what was the motivation behind building it?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of context about the community I've created So we've got a specific Facebook group now with 7,000, nearly 8,000 members in there, and it is New Zealand Small Business Owners Forum. So if you're not from New Zealand, you're not welcome.
Sure.
No offense, Con, and no offense to your viewers, but that was the niche that I decided I want to help New Zealand small businesses. I'm from New Zealand. I love New Zealand. I love what we do. And I know that there's not a lot of support out there in business. It's freaking lonely, man. And sometimes you want ideas, or you need to know someone, or you need a hookup or a connection, and you just don't have that. But actually the way it came about was, as my business was growing through that sort of 2014, 2015, 2016 period, we were growing fast, man. I mean, I'd turn up on a Saturday morning, and there'd be cars lined up down the street waiting to get in, and it was exciting. But the byproduct of that is my friends and other business associates and people that I knew kept saying, "Hey, dude, what are you doing? Like, your marketing's everywhere. everybody's talking about your name. You've got, you know, you turn up to car shows and every car had your stickers on it and all of this. And how did you do that? And I was like, oh yeah, well, you know, and I try to answer people's questions, you know, message them or they'd call me. And I was like, frick, this is like I'm trying to run my business here and I want to help people, but I just don't have the time to do both. So I thought, I'll grab everyone that I know that's a business owner on my friends list and I'll whack them into a Facebook group and just kind of cultured and let it go and supported it a little bit. And it was probably, it just sort of slowly grew. It took a year to get to 1,000 members and then maybe another year to get to 2. But it was about that 2,000 member mark. And obviously, I'd been putting time and energy in answering people's questions and encouraging that. That I started to realize, crikey, I've got to make a shift in this here, because what was happening is people were seeing 2,000 eyeballs and going, oh, I'm just going to join there and share my latest blog post or my fucking special of the month or whatever they, you know, like, and
as
I
they
totally get it. So it was, and I had, when I first started, I'd drawn up a bit of sometimes I just type and my brain just, words come out on the page. And I just got into flow and I just sort of said, well, this is the community I want to create. And these are the things that we're here to support each other and celebrate wins and network together. And I just put that up and that was kind of like, people followed it for a while. But it got to the point was like, okay, this community is really starting to grow, but we're also starting to see some cracks, you know, in the bucket, so to speak. So we got a bit more strict and we got quite tight on the way we managed it. So you're not here to advertise. It's not an advertising forum. You know, we don't want people messaging to other people unsolicited, because that just gets annoying. You know, you jump in a group and you're, hey, I need some help with my SEO. And next minute, 15 people are messaging you and you're like, dude, I just wanted my question answered, not to be sold to. And so we built out, you know, a structure, and we've just refreshed all of that just recently again, as we've now just hit that sort of 7,000 mark and we're getting a lot more growth. But and that alienated some members, and it certainly some people didn't like it because they were like the freedom to be able to advertise and all the rest of it. But what it did do is it started to get more of an engaged community, a community where they actually felt they could genuinely ask a question and they were going to get a decent answer rather than someone just trying to sell them services. So yeah, so that was a huge thing. And then, you know, we saw a bit of growth. We hit 5,000, maybe year 3, might have been even year 4 before we hit 5,000. And then, you know, the last year we sort of, we're sort of just, I think it might've been sort of 6,3, could have been even, it might've been 5,000 actually, high fives right before the start of the pandemic. And fuck, man, the traffic, the amount of posts, the amount of, oh, the government said this, and we've now taken a no political route because it's not healthy for a community, because you've got so many people with different beliefs around politics. But the traffic just went from like, you know, 50 posts a week to 300 posts a week. And the level of moderation and the level of, and like I say, my time went full noise on it. And it was probably about the start of the 3rd week on lockdown. And I thought, shit, this is crazy. Like, I'm just like working 24/7 on this thing, trying to support people. And I realized, shit, I've got to pull myself back and I've got to stop being in there answering questions and really think strategically about the community. And so I was fortunate enough to come across a book by Don Beck called Spiral Dynamics. And Spiral Dynamics is an amazing piece of study of human culture. And it was started in the late 60s originally. And they spent a lot of time studying communities in Africa and the cultural shifts and challenges. And you know, so I listened to that book over the first 2 weeks of lockdown, and it kind of came to me. I was like, frick. And I literally just grabbed my whiteboard and I walked over and I just color coded, looking at the colors in the spiral, how they relate to the people within the group, their mindset, the challenges that they're facing right now, the level of volume, the level of skill set they've got in business. And what it gave me was, it gave me this beautiful picture of who my community really is and how they think and who can lead who to level up within the group. So it was just it was like an epiphany at that point. All of a sudden, instead of me trying to be in there and doing my old thinking of I can save everyone and it's all about me, going, man. And so since then, we've brought on 3 new moderators who have amazing skill sets, 2 business coaches and a Google specialist too. And we're making all these announcements literally on Monday. But now we're going to have a group of 6 of us actually moderating and really encouraging the community to grow, which is just going to be such an amazing way of sort of taking the pressure off myself and the other 2 admins, but as well as that, giving different and far more skilled perspective to questions, having business people that are playing at the higher level of the spiral, sort of the green and yellow level, and if for anyone that understands spiral dynamics, they'll sort of relate. Is going to mean that those that are at the lower levels in the red and the blue, which are newer businesses that are struggling with things like I struggle with, trust issues, or struggling with financial literacy, they're going to have people that have been there offering good advice. And man, like from a community perspective, my whole philosophy is when you come into a community like this, don't come in with it with the expectancy of what can I get from this community, but come into it with the expectancy of what can I give to this community. And man, having framed things up like that, it's incredible. When we get away from I want to give away my ebook so I can get your email list type thinking, and we start to, I want to give my knowledge so that you can improve your business with no expectation of me getting any return. And if someone does that consistently for 3 to 4 months, you're going to get known as a person in the community who's a go-to. And that's certainly what I've done now for 6 years. And I'm getting regular invites to do podcasts like this one.
Sure.
I've made connections with local politicians. I've made connections with, media personalities that do all kinds of stuff around New Zealand. I even did a thing on mental health, actually on the news the other week. All of this stuff, just because I kind of shifted my own gears in my head and took the focus off around what I want, and really how can I support. I guess there is the question around, so then what? You've got this great community. How do you monetize that? And you talked about podcasts, and the podcast for me has been a brilliant way for me to really help share information. And I've interviewed some of the most amazing digital marketers and, really supporting businesses for that. Now, we know that there'll be an onflow, whether it becomes a sponsorship deal, whether it becomes a product that we offer or sell. I'm not even, I'm not so in that space. I'm so in that space of knowing that we're on the right path. It's going to come. And when it comes, it'll be the same. It'll be that epiphany of like, clarity, let's go. Yeah.
Mate, I can definitely relate to that. It's just, I interviewed one of my good mates, Kim McGuinness, who's state manager for realestate.com here in South Australia. And one of the things that we chatted about, and certainly we both agreed on, was the level of real estate agents on social media, where it was a constant call to action. Look at me. If you want an appraisal, call me. I've got this unit that's on open inspection. Come and see me. Like everything was a call to action.
Me.
Me. And it's phenomenal how, and I'm not, for any real estate people out there watching, I'm not picking on the real estate industry. This is just an observation from what I see. And I've got some good mates who are in real estate. And if you're watching, we've had this conversation. I'm not going to mention names. Like, just get away from this call to action. It's
social media, right? It's social media. Be fucking social.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something that's really, really important, and that's just not that kind of business, but it's businesses in general. About all their focus is on a call to action. What can I get out of this, rather than what value can I provide? And I just want to make a couple of points very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, you mentioned about your groups not available to business owners outside of New Zealand. Well, we now have an international audience, and there may be indeed New Zealand business owners who do get to watch this.
Mm-hmm.
And I would certainly encourage you to get in contact with Nick and his business community there. But also, if there's anybody in Australia, or indeed anywhere else in the world, that wants to follow the model, I mean, it's all about, what can we do to help and support. And the second thing, the second point that I wanted to make is that certainly there is a big push from, it doesn't matter what courses you do, who you speak to. You're right. There's this big thing about, download my free ebook and just give me your details. Now, I guess the question that I have for you is, we all understand that that's a way for building
lists,
a list to
provide
information value to that community, to that group. What then are you suggesting we do in lieu of not doing that to then build that community? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. So, and I think it kind of, I'll take it from a perspective of someone who's wanting to start out or create something. Before you go and put people into a group, have a think about what it is that your ultimate outcome is for that group. And it's got to be a higher purpose than I want a group that I can mine out of and make sales to. It's got to be. Otherwise, it's going to be so blatantly obvious, no one's going to stick around. So find some sort of a purpose or passion project. It could be a charity. It could be whatever it is for you. Find that first and discover that, understand the values about it, and write yourself some sort of a context, a community direction document, I'd call it, something like that. From there, just offer value. Don't worry about the monetization, because it's going to come. Certainly, there, I get the whole ebook thing and all of that, and fucking gurus and Russell Brunson and all of that stuff. It works. Don't get me wrong, but I think that we're in an age now where people can see through that noise so easily. So what we've used is our podcast as a fantastic tool to offer huge value. I mean, jumping on and doing this type of thing live, real time, discussing someone's challenges day to day, it just offers so much support. And that could be in anything. You could be a dog rescue, as off the top of my head, and talking about behaviors of animals that have been abused and how to work through that, and doing that to a community. You can bet your bottom dollar that's an opportunity for someone to position themselves as the expert in that. And Con, as you know, anyone who's really genuinely an expert, opportunities come to them. Whether it's media, whether it's collaborations, whether it's international podcasts for other people, right? It's like things pop up. So really, just as I say, just if you are starting out, think about those things first, and come back to your little rant on real estate agents there, and it's about, like, start having really open conversations with people and being genuine about just wanting to reach out and connect. Not saying, hey, it's like really good to meet you, mate. Like, I'm glad we got connected. Oh, hey, by the way, you looking to buy a house?
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not.
Mate, and I just see it over and over and over again. But I'm going to stop beating up the real estate industry, because I'll have somebody wanting to hurt me.
Well, Gary Vee says it really well. As marketers, fuck everything up.
Yeah. And my apologies to any marketers out there. Nick, the other, just going back to how, you started this community and just wanting to add value and help. And that was what ultimately motivated me to start this. I thought, okay, this is a once in a generation event, and it's gonna, I mean, the impact
We haven't even
personally,
felt it yet, mate.
exactly. This is just the tip, right? There is so much more to come. That said, the government, and I'm guessing the New Zealand government probably would have been very similar. The Australian government was releasing, programs, benefits, business support. Like it was just,
Quantitative easing,
it
mate.
was just, yeah,
Tons of
mate.
it.
It was just all, and it was just being like so much of it. And I thought, geez, there's people out there that are legitimately going to be in a real panic about, I've got to close my business. How am I going to feed my family? I've got to pay a mortgage. I've got to pay my rent. How am I going to educate the kids? And so on and so forth. And as you and I both know, having been in those, with that dark cloud hanging over you, I wanted to try and bring some clarity. And exactly why I started this, I just wanted to bring value to people. And my argument, not my argument, but my point has always been when I speak to anybody about it, is if one person benefits from something that you've said, or the accountant that I spoke to 2 months ago, or whatever, if one person benefits and it can improve, whether it be their mindset, their health, their relationship, whatever it is, then it's been worthwhile. It just like it's not about how many. If I can help one person, I'm really, really happy about it. And I know, what you do. You mentioned to me you've done something like about 40 odd podcasts in 50 days, mate. I know how much work goes into putting one of these together, and so that's why I've dropped it back to 2 a week. Mate, you doing 40 plus in 50 days, I'm surprised you've got any hair left.
Mate, I've actually got almost as good as Trump's here, to be honest with you.
Mate, I'll tell you, there's just a little bit of difference between what's going on up here and what's going on over there, mate. But then again,
actually,
I've got a few years ahead of you, champ.
I was due for a haircut the week before lockdown, and we were told 4 weeks, and then that last week, and I was just like, crikey, I just didn't have the time to get that done with all the rest of them running around. And then when it got extended to 2 months of lockdown, so I'd basically gone 3 months, mate. I was literally out here. I'll send you a selfie later.
Mate, it's a bit of a Brad Pitt hairdo. So I don't know what you're trying to do over there, mate. But I know I know you've gone through a physical transformation as well. Watching that, and mate, you're an absolute picture of health. And with that hair, I don't know, you're looking 20 years younger, champ. 20 years younger.
Mate. Thanks, mate. Actually, yesterday was my 38th day a year on the planet. So
happy birthday for yesterday, mate.
Yeah,
and all the best to you.
That was exciting. But yeah, look, on that podcast thing, Con, hey, 45 podcasts in 50 days. It was pretty crazy. But I was around the 3rd or the 4th day, and I interviewed a lawyer who was talking about how you can get out of your clause, your contract clause 27.5, and no access and da. And we had a couple of people message that said, mate, you've just saved my business.
See?
And that was the motivation to go, fuck it, I'm going to keep going with this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, rhythms, yep, back to 2 a week. So I've got Real Talk, which is the one that I'm doing exclusively into the group. But there is another one that I've launched, which is a public one, which maybe some of your audience could get a hold of, which is called Biz Shiz. You'll like that?
Oh, there you go. Biz Shiz.
And that is, I've got a Facebook page for that. So happy to, I can share that in the comments for you guys to have a look at. But that's on a Tuesday at 8 p.m. New Zealand time, so 6 p.m. For the most of Australia.
For the most of Australia, and that'll be 5:30 for Adelaide, is that right?
Yeah, probably. You guys in your half hour.
Mate, it's funny. One of my best mates says when the Victorians say, "Oh, you're half hour behind us," he says, "No, we're 23 and a half hours ahead."
Yeah.
So talk about turning the thing around. Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I really appreciate you coming on and having a chat and sharing some of your experiences, which I know many people will absolutely get value out of. Mate, I really look forward to having another chat really, really soon.
Yeah, cool, mate. Yeah, always up for it. So thanks for having me.
My name is Con. I am the Conversationalist, and until next time.